Well, Terry, we had some very sad news here at The Spectator after The Spectator UK's popular low-life columnist Jeremy Clarke passed away. Terry, what was it that captivated people about his writing?
Well, I think the fact that he wrote so well, and certainly in the last few years, that he was writing so well and so dedicatedly and so regularly, notwithstanding all his health complaints and concerns. I mean, Jeremy Clarke was diagnosed with cancer years ago, and he's struggled through it with the help of his now wife, now widow, Katrina, but also I think with the support of his colleagues at The Spectator, certainly with I think the love of many readers. And it's interesting that Fraser Nelson, in his obituary for Jeremy Clarke in The Spectator on the Coffeehouse blog, actually pointed out he met his wife at a spectator function that was designed and intended to promote his column. So the fans that he married a fangirl, which I think we'd all like to do that, wouldn't we? But look, I just think his writing was very personal, particularly when it came to his downs as well as his ups. And that's not just with his illness. I mean, he did it in terms of his earlier life as well, which was quite colourful, to say the least, in terms of some of the things he did, and some of the things he did which were marginally legal, if legal at all. And it was just an entertaining writer. And it's such a contrast to the high life columnist Taki, who's into the high life. And that's how the low life column eventually started way back when with Jeffrey Bernard in the 70s and 80s. And he was frequently unwell because he was as pissed as a newt and just basically out of it for a couple of weeks at a time. But Jeremy Clarke, a different type of character, but brought a different type of low life to The Spectator that will be much missed. And if Fraser Nelson says that he's one of the greatest writers The Spectator has ever had, that's high praise indeed.
Well, Terry, just one last thing before we let you go back to bed, really. Are there any hints that you think might be brewing, like a new story on the horizon? Where to next for the exciting news this week?
Well, look, I think there's going to be more Victoria, but look, it's The Voice. Try and understand it. I mean, it's certainly, I think, going to be dominating, especially now that Anthony Albanese has decided to push it through without any changes, and basically saying that listening to the Indigenous Working Group is much more important than listening to the views of parliamentarians and the Australian community. I think that's going to be an issue. I think the related issue in Queensland of the Conservatives, the LNP supporting a treaty up there, I think is a real concern. I see that Rowan Dean has written about it in the editorial for the magazine this week. I just think that's a real worry, because that could go anywhere. It's a real Pandora's box, and I think it's really, playing the victim card to the hilt. And I think that's not what Conservative voters want to see. So I think those two issues will take a lot of airtime in the next few days.
Well, thank you, Terry. We look forward to reading your views coming forward every day with your Double Shot newsletter. Thank you so much for joining us here on Spectator Australia TV.
Always a pleasure.